Venezuela has been trending on social media ever since the U.S. abducted and detained its president, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife. And now, Venezuelans, whether hopeful or fearful, are bracing for what comes next. And while many of them celebrated Maduro's departure, others criticized the U.S. intervention. I'm Stefanie Dekker, and welcome to the stream where we take digital trends and your online conversations and give them context.
January 3rd marks a historic day for Venezuelans.
Being Venezuelan just got 800 times more difficult overnight, as if it wasn't already difficult enough.
We don't have money for food, health insurance, medication, or housing, but this is America. There's always money for war.
Because U.S. intervention in geopolitics has a long history of destabilizing countries and doesn't end well for the people who live there. It's about oil. That's the bottom line.
You know how many kids are going to name Donald Trump this year? He's my son. He's a Donald Trump 1, Donald Trump 2, Trumpcito. Is my daughter Donala Trumpa?
Now, some may find that funny, and maybe there is some truth to it. Certainly, many Venezuelans are over the moon that Maduro has gone, but it's not quite that simple, is it? Donald Trump has said that the U.S. will rule Venezuela. What does that mean? And what are Venezuelans saying in the post-Maduro era? Is it about their rights and democracy? Is it the drug war? Or is it about oil and other resources, as many suspect? Well, to discuss all of this, we are joined by two Venezuelans who have U.S. citizenship for their view on what happened. We have Luis Ernesto Patino, a Venezuelan American activist and political commentator, joining us from Rockville, Maryland. And we have Adelys Ferro, a co-founder and executive director of the Venezuelan American Caucus, and she joins us from Miami. Luis, I saw you laughing at the scene setter, that clip we were playing there. First, I want to get your reaction to what happened. U.S. Special Ops going in the middle of the night and flying out Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela.
Well, I laugh because that's a truth, right? Venezuelans name people based on the person of the year, the person who's making the news. And you really will see a lot of Venezuelans with that name, Donald Trump, for sure. Look, my reaction that morning was a big celebration. I had the opportunity to see it from the very beginning, and I was completely impressed with how clean the intervention was, the extraction of Maduro. It took less than 2 hours. And for Venezuelans, whoever's from Venezuela knows that we have been living 27 years under a dictatorship. And that was a big moment. Definitely a good way to know that we do have a chance to go back to freedom.
A lot of people, a lot of Venezuelans seem to have that sentiment. Many do question, however, how it was done, right? Setting a very dangerous precedent. Certainly, if you look at the sense of sovereignty, Adelys, how do you feel about it?
First of all, thank you so much for the invitation. I think two things can be true at the same time. I was joyful, happy, relieved. And I am really, really grateful that Maduro has been brought to justice in the United States. And I really also hope that he is going to live a long life, because he has also to be brought to justice in the international court because crimes against humanity. So I really hope him and many of the people that are still in power in Venezuela, because the Maduro regime still exists in Venezuela. And that's a truth as big as the sun. And as it is right now, we don't even know if there is a timeline, some kind of process for real going on, not towards economics or business or oil businesses, but towards democracy and free and democratic elections. Other thing that can definitely be truth is that President Trump did everything regarding the extraction, as they call, or the detention of Nicolas Maduro, by passing Congress and by passing some international laws. Two things can be truth at the same time. And probably he could have done the same thing in the right way with international allies and doing the right thing, because the biggest concern, and I totally understand that, is that you are ousting an authoritarian, a dictator, doing things that sometimes, in many situations, can be seen as also authoritarian. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think it's a very good point, right? And many people have questioned, how is it possible, if we do still have international law and order, which is a whole other show, whether you can simply go into a country, whoever the head of that state is, and extract them, because it sets a very dangerous precedent, right? Luis, I do understand that you agree with what happened. Why do you think they did it?
We have to see this from the right point of view. He's the president of the Americans. And I have the chance to be a Republican American. I have the blessing to be born in Venezuela, but I have to understand that this president, no names on him. In this case, it's Donald Trump. The president must protect the American citizens. And it is not a secret that the Venezuelan regime has been bringing drugs, and it has been sending people through the border because they did send.
But a lot of the drugs, but Luis, just to jump in, a lot of the drugs they do say come from other countries, not necessarily from Venezuela, right?
There is no one single legal evidence.
That could be true because Venezuela is not the only
there is no one single evidence. There is no one single evidence in any court of the United States, legally speaking, that can prove the fact that they send people to the border. Not even one legal evidence. I'm talking about facts, not about opinions or social media.
Maduro, but see how many, Adelys, see how many of the detained were affiliated or associated with the Niño Guerrero. And the Niño Guerrero is also named in that clause.
From all the Venezuelans in the United States, 0.05 have committed some sort of a crime. And from all those, hold on. I am involved in legal lawsuits regarding Venezuelan immigrants. I know this data. I know this data. There is not even one of them that can be proved. I'm not saying they are not, but not even one of them has been proven being part of the Tren of Aragua.
Can I ask you something? Venezuelans want to elect, and I know elections in 2024 were contested, but want to elect their own leader. We're talking about the U.S. president intervening in your country. I mean, you now have dual citizenship, but you both came to the U.S. over a decade ago, right, from what I understand. Should the U.S. be having any say what happens in your country?
No country should have anything to do with the democratic election in our country. We have been fighting to get Cuba out, Iran out, China out, Russia out. We don't want the United States either. And I am an American. I have been here for almost 2 decades now. And I totally support what Luis said. The U.S. president has to work in the best interest for the U.S. citizens, as we are also who we are, right? Precisely because of that, the legality, the Constitution, the Congress mandate has to be followed, because that's the way this country, not Venezuela, the United States, should work and should follow the law.
Okay, let me jump in there quickly because we have a lot to get to. Luis, your reaction to that. Following the law, did Trump go a little bit too far by not consulting Congress, by simply going in? Even whatever you think of Nicolas Maduro, does this set a dangerous precedent when we look at the global law and order?
It does not. That will be the first time. That will be the first time that President must ask permission for protecting the country. It didn't happen when they removed Saddam Hussein. It didn't happen when they moved Iran.
But look at the results of that, right? Certainly the countries often, when something like this happens, it's a lot of turmoil for the people in that country, right? Are you worried for where Venezuela will be going?
No, I'm completely not. We have been strong, solid political and economic partners of the U.S. historically. Actually, the oil industry was installed by Venezuela and Europe, and I mean, different countries came to help us build the industry. This industry didn't come out of the ground, right? I mean, literally, it was built by Americans. And we have been solid partners with them, economic and political partners in history. Now we're partners with Russia. Now we're partners with Iran. We're partners with Cuba. We're partners with China, which is a risk for the United States. And it is a risk on this global political situation that they're living now.
Let me just play something to another point that you guys can debate. One of the top comments that Venezuelans are sharing in the fact that Maduro's vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, became the interim president, and many are not happy.
Delcy Rodriguez is Maduro's VP. She handles the oil and is responsible, along with his power brokers, for one of the biggest refugee crises in our hemisphere and for torturing and imprisoning thousands of innocent people.
So, Trump removes Maduro, but instead of calling for new and free elections in a year or whatever, he decided to put the vice president from Maduro's government in charge. That's not super weird. That's like if January 6th was successful and he was like, okay, now Biden is gone, let's get Kamala.
Adelys, where do you see Venezuela going? A lot of Venezuelans are saying that they don't believe anything has really changed because you have the same system in power.
It has no change. Nothing has changed. The only thing that is different is that Maduro is not in power. His wife, Cilia Flores, who is also a criminal, is not with him in power. But every single other person from the regime, from the repression apparatus, is still very much in power, to the point, and let me tell you this, my mother lives in Caracas. No one is telling me stories. My mom has to erase every single morning our conversations in our chat because she's afraid that whenever she goes out to the church, to the supermarket, she can be randomly detained and her phone can be checked and she can be detained. They are detaining people, we are speaking here right now. There is nothing getting better. Let's say there are money coming into the country. They're going to open the U.S. embassy. What I am asking for beyond this finish the job is if you are really negotiating some sort of transition, let's see, they are very vocal about everything in the U.S. government. Secretary Rubio is always in the media. President Trump every day is in the media and in social media. So besides praising Delcy Rodriguez, besides praising everything that she's doing, 24 hours ago, he was saying that she's doing an amazing job and the political prisoners has been freed in big numbers. That's a lie.
Luis, I want to get your reaction to the same question. You can't. Do you envisage the U.S. government going in and taking out more people of Maduro's government, or do you think things are going to remain as is, and where do things go from there?
Well, here's the thing. Just to make this clear, Delcy Rodriguez is as responsible of the dictatorship as Nicolas Maduro. She could be even worse. She's a leftist communist, and that's a fact. She has been involved and governing, being part of the government for the same 20, 25 years. Her and her brother, her and Diosdado Cabello, her and so many other names that must be removed. It must be removed because they are as responsible as Maduro and they have been doing exactly the same time of business for the last 20 years. So I do believe that this will continue, but there is a logical transition towards that. We can now just go and bomb a country and completely disappear a country and start to build from the ashes. At this moment, it's very critical to have a connection between branches because the real president, Edmundo González and Maria Corina Machado, the leader, they do not have how to control the institutions. They do not have to control. They cannot control the military. They cannot control the Supreme Court, the National Assembly,
There was a plan for the very first. There was a plan for the very first 100 hours after Maduro will be ousted. There was a plan for the very first 100 days after Maduro. Not my plan. Maria Corina's plan. Yeah. No one took that in consideration.
What would need to change for you to feel like you would want to return to Venezuela, if that's even something that you want to do? I'm going to put that to you, Luis.
First, I have to see Venezuelan from the Venezuelan point of view. I cannot see that from the Democratic or Republican Party. So if my heart is more set in a political ideology, I'm not going to see things clearly. I have to see these from the balance, from the middle, from the midfield. I do need the rest of the guys to be removed. Venezuela is going to transition with no hesitation. It's going to transition into democracy, and it's going to happen with the correct process. It's going to happen because Venezuelans need and deserve freedom. of speech, need and deserve a food, need and deserve good hospitals, need and deserve having the peace of mind to go out freely. That's what Venezuelans need. It's going to happen. We have the leader. We have Maria Corina Machado. We have Edmundo Gonzalez. And we trust not only them. We trust democracy. We trust our happiness. We trust the way we live on the street. We trust our families. We trust the hugs that we give and we share among Venezuelans, even if we don't know each other. Look, we're going to get there, and we just have to trust. Keep trusting.
Adelys, we're running out of time. Let me put that to you as a final thought. Are you as confident that that process is going to happen?
Several things really quick. I cannot go back to Venezuela because I am in Diosdado Cabello, one of the criminals that are still in power. I am in one of his lists, and I have the dubious honor to be shown even with my picture on his TV show several times. So I cannot go back to Venezuela until this regime that is still in power, leave power and give path to democracy. Second, President Trump has said several times, not once, that at least it's gonna take 18 months to see what can happen in Venezuela. Are we taking to this that this dictatorial regime is going to stay in power for at least 2 years to give the transition to Maria Corina, to Edmundo? This is the problem.
I do have to pick up, when you do call it a dictatorial regime, he is someone that is still seen as an elected leader. A lot of emotions high, of course, the Venezuelan people, so many celebrating, but also questioning how it happened, what happens next, and why it happened, right? Luis and Adelys, thank you so much. Sorry to jump in. I know we could keep going on about it. Such an important time for Venezuela. Thank you so much for coming here on the stream. Now it's time for our debunking segment. Why? Because misinformation thrives in political chaos. The latest developments in Venezuela has had many on the internet create their own visuals on what happened. You've probably seen a lot of misleading pictures and footage, if you can spot it, that is. Well, fortunately, we're now joined in the studio by Marc Owen Jones. He's an associate professor of media analytics at Northwestern University in Qatar, and he specializes in disinformation and propaganda. Good to see you, Marc. I wanted to ask you something. Looking at some of the AI-generated images and videos that went viral that were wrong, my question was, it wasn't even that extraordinary, right? It was Maduro in a suit. It was pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the early ones was him being escorted off the plane by 2 U.S. soldiers.
Which happened, in a way.
Yeah, we believe so, right? If we can believe anything these days. And that was even retweeted by the White House, right? So the White House actually retweeted an AI-generated image of Maduro, the people that they technically had just captured.
Do you think they would have done that? I mean, they would have known that's wrong.
Yeah, because this is not the first time they've done it. And I think it's worth mentioning that, for example, recently they actually edited a picture of someone that they'd arrested in the US and edited using AI to make them cry. So we know that the White House are actually deliberately altering images using AI, whether in this case they didn't.
Spicy social media person.
Spicy social media, trying to be edgy, edgelording. It fits in very much with this kind of far-right aesthetic of trying to basically show a flagrant disregard for the truth or the reality. But the point is the picture that they retweeted, which was fake, showed a particular message, right? It's the "we got him" message, right? It was the same message that Barack Obama said when they got Osama bin Laden. He said, "We got him," right? And I think, for the Trump regime, it was very much that they wanted to say that we have gone in and got this bad guy. Here's the image to prove it, and they wanted to control the narrative, right? So it's
the Trump administration.
The Trump administration, and anyone, and this is an important thing. Why do we see these AI images? Because when the news broke of Maduro being captured, there was still a bit of lag in terms of what visuals were there, right? But this is at the height of the information war, when people want that information, right? So if you can get that picture out as soon as possible, that shows...
First come.
First come, first serve, the US being in a position of power, getting their man, and, dispelling any rumors, that looks really good. And there's also another effect here. Maybe they wanted that to also be some sort of way of provoking Venezuelans in Venezuela to actually maybe rise up. And we saw other AI-generated images shared by Elon Musk.
Right? Yeah, right.
Yeah, the protests. And this is, Elon Musk shared an AI video of Venezuelans protesting, celebrating the overthrow of Maduro. Why? Well, there's 2 reasons. You could argue that there is a desire here to try and instigate people into further overthrowing the regime, which is possible, or Trump approval. So Alex Jones, who is a conspiracy theorist, also pro-Trump, he also shared the same image of Venezuelans protesting. Now, why would you do that? Well, Trump always said that he was against intervention. But if you can make it look that Venezuelans really supported what Trump did, then it makes Trump look good. So it's a way of basically saying Trump's off the hook for his foreign intervention, even though it's
everyone
against what he
supports
said.
what he did.
Everyone supports what he did. He's done a good thing. This is people showing appreciation for Trump, right? So that's when those AI-generated images can be really useful.
And dangerous, because they're so, let's say, usually we think of deep fakes as being really, really harmful, things that are like created out of, this was a very, like you say, pretty much what happened. Yeah. People want to see it first. But if governments are now using misinformation, which they are, right? And we can't identify it most of the time. The better AI gets, we're not going to be able to identify it at any point in the future, right? At some point.
No, at some point we won't. I mean, now certain platforms like Google, for example, if you generate a fake image or an AI or a deep fake using Google, one of Google's technology, there is a watermark in there, which allows you to basically show it back to Google and it will say, yes, this was created with AI.
And if you crop it?
If you crop it out, you don't necessarily know where it is. It's not going to happen. But the point is that that's only Google, and maybe they'll stop doing it. There's other tools out there where you can bypass that. And I think what's worrying is, as you said, once governments start to use this AI-generated images, it's no longer about the truth. It's no longer about we need a photo to show what happened. What it becomes about is propaganda. Here's an image to show what we want you to think happened. We're basically just showing, that image of Maduro on the runway, or, whatever had happened, they probably would have shown it anyway. And that's
just
what's really
later on.
Just later on, but it's trying to curate reality that looks realistic, that doesn't necessarily reflect reality, but reflects what people in power want you to see. And I think that's what's really harmful about it.
And manipulative, right?
It's
extremely manipulative, dangerous.
I would say it's terribly dangerous. And not just because they're lying, right? Governments lie all the time. They've done this all the time from Iraq.
Nothing new. Yeah.
WMD.
We don't need AI for that.
Yeah, we don't need AI for that. But what it is it's creating this kind of situation where people don't know what to believe or to trust. And that's really dangerous because it's when you don't know what to trust, then the notion of truth itself becomes, a commodity. How do you know what's real? How do you know what's not real? And then people tend to go into their silos and only believe what they want to believe or believe that the people that they already support. That's when you get these polarization and divisions, right? I'm only going to believe you because I know, I already support you. It doesn't matter if you're telling me the truth or not. I'm just going to do you because I decided I trust you, right? So I think this kind of manufacturing of these false images, these false videos, is designed to sow distrust. And it's not all cynical. It's not just because politics. There's other things at play here, like monetization. Right,
our attention. You want to keep it.
Well, I mean, look what goes viral, right? So why do things go viral? Well, because images get more virality, videos get more virality. What does virality mean? Well, it means if you're a content creator, you're going to get more money. So if there is breaking news about Maduro being captured, and you're like, I'm going to create an AI-generated image because people will retweet it.
Right?
Millions of hits, and that means money. And that system exists because
that means money, even if it is proven not to be correct later?
It doesn't matter. I mean, you don't get, I don't think it's refunds, right? You get your million views, and someone's like, actually, it was fake, it's deleted, we want the money back. It doesn't care. It's already out there, it's in the ether. So the platform politics, how social media companies have created their platforms, rewards virality. But virality it doesn't reward truth, right? It rewards sensationalism. Like you said, it's that first person there. So that's another issue with this. And then there's the final thing that I will say. There's the image economy now. If you go onto lots of news sites, they're using AI to generate images. If you create a news story...
Yeah, I've noticed that.
And say,
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. I'm going to create an AI, picture of, a Venezuelan forest, because I'm writing a story about a Venezuelan forest. People won't think, oh, that's bad. They're using an AI-generated image of the forest, or a story of a forest. They're just using it because they get to create an image. And so some people are just creating images because they're like, here's a story about Maduro being captured. Let's create an image of Maduro being captured. Right?
We're running out of time. Is there any way we, as normal people, you're an expert on this, how can we tell? How do we navigate this morass of what's true and what's not as we move into the future?
Well, you're not going to like it, but it's very difficult. And there are those tools that I mentioned. For example, if Google puts a watermark on an image, you can, for example, learn to upload that. But that's not going to really help.
For your average person?
For your average person, you should just not believe anything from some account that you can't verify. And I know it sounds traditional, but you still have to rely on authoritative and credible news outlets when it comes to verifying true stories. And I know lots of people won't like that because they're like, who is verifiable, who is credible these days? And that's a very good question. But ultimately, if Joe Blogs X257 posts a picture of Maduro that gets 1 million pics. How do you know this guy's real, and how do you know this is credible? Just play, on the side of caution. And maybe you don't want to trust the legacy news media, but definitely don't trust a random dude who you've never heard of sharing a picture, even though you have no idea if he's credible or not.
Trust Al Jazeera.
Yeah, trust Al Jazeera,
for sure.
exactly.
Get your facts
news
from
here.
Al Jazeera, absolutely.
Or from me, I don't
Or from
mind.
Marc. Marc, thank you so much for coming
Thank you.
on the stream, certainly navigating that online world becoming more and more difficult. Well, thank you for watching. For me and the entire stream team, I'll see you soon.